wreckage, and he's saying goodbye to her before he's so sweet.
Hi, Roy. How are you? Welcome. Come on up here. You can guard my right, but she guards my left. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. You guys all set to go? Behind the TV cameras? All right. The one act that we wanted you to know about, and I want to describe to you in just a minute, and then I want to hand it over to Mickey and let her talk about the details of some of the operations that are going on in Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. So anyway, today I signed an emergency order to enable Mickey and the team at the department to expand their pothole repair operations. They're bringing in additional overtime staff, which is made possible by the emergency order, and also workers from other city divisions and departments to implement a pothole repair surge. With a break in the winter weather, did anybody notice the blue skies out there today? We intend to use all hands and all available resources to repair as many locations as possible over the next few days. Potholes, of course, are more than an inconvenience. They're costly and sometimes dangerous. So we will deploy resources and personnel to ensure that Lincoln drivers can safely get to work, to their homes, to the churches, shopping, and all the other needed destinations. It's at the top of our priority list. Let me say, though, how proud I am of the skill and speed with which our roads team delivers for Lincoln, especially in the face of the once-in-a-half-century harsh winter weather that Lincoln has experienced this season. So with that brief introduction, I want to ask Mickey to come forward and give us a lot more in terms of details of their operations there. Mickey.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. You know, the ingredients of this cold and wet winter, snow, ice, rain, freeze, and thaw, provide the perfect recipe for potholes. The resulting water from this process seeps beneath the pavement through cracks caused by the wear and tear of traffic. Moisture and severe cold causes pavement cracking that allows even more water to seep in, expanding and displacing pavement. So for the last 4 years, our transportation team has focused on creating a more nimble repair response due to how harsh Nebraska weather is on our streets. Our street crews have the ability to expand and target operations to maximize safety and convenience for drivers. We've been handling record snowfalls, and with the break in the weather, crews have redeployed to repair street damage. And as Mayor stated, the point of all of this is to deliver safety and convenience for Lincoln families. We continually seek best practices and new technology to increase our effectiveness in changing weather conditions. We procured the latest technology in street maintenance equipment in 2015. Because of the break in the temperature, our spray patchers are now on the street, and they will be in continuous operation for as long as the weather holds, even overnight. We created a traffic management center to better coordinate communication and operations during emergency response and incident command. We deployed new technology like automatic vehicle location to inform command operations in real time where vehicles are and what streets have been addressed. We use specialized weather forecasting software to reliably position our crews. We leverage robust asset management tools to prioritize known hotspots and address those potholes first. We use Uplink, a service request app, to empower citizens with direct communication to our crews about problem areas. We use these resources and others to quickly respond to needs, but sometimes changing circumstances like the weather call for even more action. The pothole surge is a deployment strategy that takes advantage of favorable weather to get the job done fast. Cold patching during colder months ensures the street is serviceable in the short term where snow, ice, and rain is still in the forecast. And you can count on us to make it happen quickly. However, warmer temperatures are still ideal for longer-lasting fixes. Patching and resurfacing in warmer, drier weather helps repair materials stick to the pavement and hold better. That's why we are anxious to do more permanent repairs like concrete panel replacements and mill and overlays, which help prevent potholes in the first place. Pothole patching is always a temporary measure to keep a street in use, but street rehabilitation is the permanent cure for potholes. I just want to give citizens a quick reminder. There are 2 ways to report potholes, one through that Uplink app that we spoke about. It is a direct line from you, the citizen, to our crews. It actually generates a work order for the crews. If you don't have access to a smartphone, you can also call us at 402-441-7701. And then I have Tim Byrne here, our maintenance operations manager, and he can provide you with really the detail of the actual surge operation. Okay, ready?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mickey, Mayor. We may still be finishing up snow season, but our crews have already begun attacking potholes this year. We have taken advantage of breaks in the weather throughout this winter season to repair the ugliest of potholes that are out there in between snowstorms even. Today, we've got 18 crews out there representing more than 60 staff members that are out there fixing our streets. They were out there last week ahead of the snowstorm. They were out there this weekend fixing potholes as well. Weather permitting, we'll continue to deploy through tomorrow as conditions are favorable ahead of the rainstorm. We are especially excited to see above freezing temperatures. The warmer weather allows us to install longer lasting, more robust repairs. We've been gearing up for this season, even as winter was wrapping up. Our equipment is ready to go. Our trucks, our patching equipment is on the streets. We have over 100 tons of cold mix in stock. That's enough to fill about 6,000 potholes. We have more deliveries regularly coming in to make sure that we have an adequate supply to keep our crews rolling. As Mickey said, we encourage residents to use the uplink application to report to us. You can also find that off of our website at lincoln.ne.gov. I would like to thank our crews for all their dedicated efforts. These are the same folks that have been fighting snow, preparing for floods, and fixing potholes around the clock this winter season. They have been very, very dedicated workers in order to provide safer transportation for our community. And I'd like to thank Mickey and Mayor for their support during these needed operations.
Tim, thank you, and be sure to thank your people for all their efforts over this last season. Mickey, thank you for your leadership and the coordination of all of this. I want to thank the members of the press for getting the word out about what's happening with regard to the city response to the snow season. As always, we're asking drivers to slow down and be cognizant of our people exposed out there on the street as they're making repairs. We want them to be safe and enable them to work quickly and efficiently and to keep our streets repaired and ready to go. So with that, we'll take questions.
How many crews do we have out this weekend?
Tim?
We had a couple crews out each day this weekend.
A couple?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned we're putting it on the app. On social media, there have been a few posts of people saying that they reported it on the app, but that it had already been reported many days before. I think one said 5 days. When you report something on the app, how long does it take to get that pothole repaired?
Go ahead.
Okay. And then I just want to talk operationally. So our target is to repair a pothole within 3 to 5 days before anyone sort of hits it again. But as you know, potholes can reemerge. And so even if it was open, it was reported and fixed, it may have reemerged as a new pothole. So we just encourage the continuous, especially during the wintertime when we just have cold patch, we just encourage people to keep reporting them because cold patch is temporary, whereas the more longer lasting repairs are made during the warmer months. So it's perfectly likely that that could have happened. And then, I don't know, do you want to talk about how quickly they repair with cold patch?
Sure. Another thing we see with the uplink application is that we very often tend to get duplicate entries for the same pothole. So there might be some that were older or newer. That pothole may have been fixed. It is a bit of a manual process on the back side for the crews to go in and earmark that one has been repaired. When those requests come into uplink, crews are dispatched out, and they're not just doing that one pothole, they're treating the entire corridor as they move on down the line.
Is it warm enough to properly repair potholes right now, or are we just temporarily fixing the problem?
We are temporarily patching with cold patch. A permanent long-term fix is when we do full-depth repairs, if it's a concrete street or hot mix asphalt repairs on those streets. That's a weather-dependent operation. Asphalt production is seasonal in our region, So there's a certain availability of those mixes throughout the year, and winter is unfortunately not one of the times that hot mix is available.
You know, we talk a lot about pothole patching is really a temporary measure for something that needs a cure, and that is more rehab for streets. So rehabilitation is really the answer to preventing potholes in the first place. So pothole patching, whether it's winter or summer, it's generally a temporary remedy to get, you know, you through and make sure that street is still in use until you can rehab it.
The pothole machines, do they use the hot or the cold mix?
They use a hot. They,
So
and then,
you're not using them right now?
no, actually, we are using them.
We
They
are.
are in service because the temperatures are favorable for them now.
Asphalt doesn't run through the spray patchers. The spray patchers is a spray injection process, so it uses a warm emulsion, asphaltic emulsion, that it coats over locally sourced aggregate to fill that hole. So it's very similar to asphalt when we think of it as an asphalt street, but it is a little bit of a different product. So those materials come from a different supply source than our asphalt production does.
But you're doing both cold patch and the spray machines
We are.
today?
We are. We've got all of our resources on it.
And I thought that it didn't work as well when it's wet.
Repairs aren't as robust when they're wet.
And that's general, that's generally for potholes. Yeah. It's not just the patchers.
Right.
Correct. But we,
You can't wait for everything.
no,
No.
we need to get out there and proactively fill those holes
Yeah.
to promote safer traveling conditions.
We have to do what we can do.
And then on social media, people are blaming the condition of the street, and my guess is it's the condition of the street and it's the kind of winter we have. I mean, do you have any idea how many freeze-thaw cycles we had over the winter?
We have not tallied that up yet. We know potholes are a result of freeze-thaw cycles, so, and coupled with precipitation. So the more severe winter we have, or 55 inches of snowfall this year, compared to our average of 20, that's a lot of added precipitation onto our streets, coupled with those freeze-thaw cycles, does make the problem worse.
Did you think this was coming?
Well, I think we had didn't we have a snow report last week? And we projected that potholes would be a problem this year because of the increased precipitation and moisture levels in the weather this past winter. So we talked about that at that last press conference and tried to forewarn folks that we thought we'd see an uptick in potholes, for sure.
I applaud the mayor's declaration for an emergency. How many dollars are now made available for this effort, in addition to what we would normally be spending? And what's the source of those funds?
Try to answer. So transportation funds are the source of those funds, and at this state, we haven't needed to go over budget. We will track our costs to see how many freeze-thaw events we get in the meantime, but for now, I think we're doing okay on pothole budget. Snow budget maybe is not such a similar story, but on the pothole budget, we're doing okay. But if we get into a problem where we need additional materials or contractors or other types of ways to surge and address potholes, then we'll come back to the mayor and the finance department to talk about that. Yeah.
I know this is an unusual winter, but the other thing folks are talking about is how do you look ahead so that you try to have fewer potholes? Is there a way where when somebody builds the street that you're going to have a contract that they're responsible for the maintenance of that street for the next 5 or 10 years, which is one of the ideas out there?
When someone builds a street currently in Lincoln, then there's about a 2-year warranty period on that particular stretch, and usually you don't see issues and concerns within that warranty period. We take ownership of a street, and as you know, through the transportation strategy, the coalition came up with recommendations for how to proof roll new streets, for how to do more geotech to check compaction in soils prior to taking ownership of those streets, prior to pouring concrete or asphalt on those streets. So there's a lot of good measures in place through those recommendations that have already been implemented. So I think we have some safeguards in place for that, with that warranty period plus the proof rolling and the geotech for the future. I hope that answers your question, but the reason we have street forces is to fix the problems, you know, on those public streets.
I may have misunderstood the mayor. I thought he said that he signed an emergency order with additional overtime staff for a pothole repair surge. But you're saying that there's no additional money that is needed to be spent?
So we will track all expenses relative to this particular surge and try to, as much as we can, absorb it in our budget. Sometimes there are savings available, and sometimes the budget can absorb this kind of effort. So we'll have to track how much overtime we have for additional crews and how much material we need to order, or even if we have to get more contractors. So it just depends. It really depends on how much we have to respond to. But we'll track our costs. We think we can absorb it. And if we can't, then we'll come back to the mayor and the finance department and have a conversation. If we really have to expend a lot of money for this kind of surge, then we do it in a mid-biennium budget amendment through the city council, but we don't anticipate that needing to happen yet.
Do you have a line item for potholes or a grouping?
We have a street operations O&M budget, and that's where our time.
That's a lot of things. So you're saying you don't think you'll overspend your street O&M?
Yeah, we don't have a pothole line item.
Well, like snow removal, you have an amount that you think you'll overspend, but potholes you don't have.
No, it's not exactly like that. It's connected to our street and maintenance operations. So there's a broad category for whether they're doing panel replacement or asphalt repair or filling potholes. It comes from the same funding, transportation funding.
I'm just heard about standing water. Like down the street from me, there's like 4 inches. All the storm drains were clogged with ice. And we're expecting like 4 inches of rain. The ground's frozen. Where's that water going to go?
Well, I guess you can probably talk about what our drainage crew is doing.
That's a good question and a reasonable concern. We are closely tracking this week's forecast for some rain, even a hint of some more snow in there. We've had crews out since last week. Our stormwater maintenance crews began last week ahead of last Thursday's snowfall, out starting with their problematic hot spots along areas that we tend to receive or tend to see flooding at first. They've been out inspecting those storm drain inlets, clearing ice jams from those. They're out again today, continuing to work on that. So we are monitoring that.
Can somebody use Uplink or Link, whatever it's called, to report a storm drain that's completely clogged that they're concerned about?
Yeah,
Yes.
There's not a specific storm drain clog application like Potholes has a direct feed, but they can always do general requests for service and let us know about that, including a picture.
You're using other city departments to help? Does that include the fire department or police department?
It does not. We're tapping our transportation and utilities crews for this level of effort. Our publics and parks department, correct. Our public safety partners, they've got their mission-focused endeavors as well. Our crews are better suited to respond to these sorts of work efforts. They've got the gear and the equipment, so to speak.
As far as manpower to work, it's going to take special training to do this stuff, right?
Yes.
So the police department and the fire department could help. So that's where most of our budget goes, correct? The city budget.
I can jump in. Well, at this time, I think we, knowing what we knew from 2015 and what worked in the past, we're using our utility and parks augments to make sure that public safety personnel are responding to public safety matters that, I mean, emergency, medical, and criminal types of activity, yeah. So we haven't had to call them in yet. if we get to the point where we need more, then we can certainly adjust, but.
Yeah, I just kept track of how many fires went on in the city, and compared to how many fires we fight, to the manpower involved, that there's a lot of time and extra time for them to maybe help.
Thank
Maybe
you.
not
Okay.
yet.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
My boss has a question, and we all told him there's nothing the city can do about this, but I need to ask it anyway.
Okay.
He's concerned about the ridges in the residential streets that are made by people driving through the slush and then it freezing. And then you can't do anything about the direction of the flow of the water as it's, I said, go out, go get a hairdryer and blow it yourself, but
I don't know if I did.
This weekend, we had some good proactive melting. Mother Nature helped us out. Saturday night, again last night, temperatures dropped down into the teens, upper 20s, so we did have some refreeze on those areas, and you're correct that as the streets start to melt and that snowpack loosens up, traffic will tend to find the same wheel path, generate some rutting. The good news is things have warmed up today, tomorrow. The short-term forecast, even though we've got some snow in it, appears to have turned a corner for us. Temperatures, we've maybe got one other day we're tracking later this week that temperatures on that pavement might drop below freezing, but we are definitely in melting mode. So those streets will significantly continue to improve here over the next day or two as we see temperatures in the 40s. With rain coming in, that's going to further accelerate that melting process and get those streets clearer.
Just one more question. With that rain, are we concerned about the Missouri River flooding at all and having any impact on our water supply?
You mean Ashland?
Yeah.
Platte River.
Platte?
Would you like to take it?
I can speak to that a little bit. So I think what we're tracking at Ashland and preparing for is possible flooding. We're always looking to this time of year to be focused on that area, and I believe that tomorrow we'll have more discussion about floods in the future, potential for this week. So we're looking into it, making sure we don't have any concern, but tomorrow I think we'll have more of an update on that. Okay, or how it might impact.
Kobe, I talked to David Saver today, and he says that there are no dangers anywhere of floods currently, that they have a big meeting on it shortly. I asked him to report to me every second day until we're sure there's no flooding about to happen. All right, you good to go? Thank you very much.
Thank you.